WBOK.
Wake up, New Orleans. Wake up, happy Tuesday. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. Shout out to our general manager, Mr. Justin, behind the glass, pretending like a super producer this morning. And my co-host, Will Sutton.
Good morning, New Orleans.
And listen, we have some things to get into. One of them being, I know that there was some angst around the interview we did on yesterday with the founder of Essence Ventures, Mr. Rich Dennis. And I know some of you wanted to call and couldn't get through to the lines, but, we will absolutely entertain any calls as it relates to that interview on yesterday. And maybe we could even sync that with some of the clips from yesterday so that we can put your questions into context for those who are listening for the first time this morning as it relates to Essence and all of the feedback, good, bad, or indifferent, regarding the experience of Essence over the July 4th weekend. But I want to share something that happened to me on yesterday. I had an experience with the Gretna Police Department, and it wasn't an experience for myself. It was an experience based in the advocacy work that I do. And so about 11 o'clock last night, I received a phone call from a former student. She's a full-grown woman whose 16-year-old son was in trouble. This young woman, it was a student of mine when I served as an adjunct professor at Southern University at New Orleans, and that is where I met her. And we've since built a really dope friendship. And so I was someone that she called. And listen, all of y'all know I shared with y'all that my phone, I had no contacts, none of that. My contacts just started to come through yesterday. So had it not been for that merge, I wouldn't have even known who she was. And I probably wouldn't have answered because it was late and I didn't recognize the number. But she called, her name showed up. I picked it up and I literally said, "Hey, Rolanda," literally just like that. And she said, she's crying. And she said, "Dr. White, I need help." And so she tells me that Gretna Police detained her 16-year-old son because someone in the neighborhood made an allegation that he flashed a weapon. And she is on the phone talking to me while the police are on the other side of the phone talking to her. And they're requesting to talk to her 16-year-old son. And I said to her, are they asking you, can, they talk to him? She said, "Yes, Dr. White, they're asking." And I said, "You have every right to decline the request. If they're arresting him, that's something totally different. But if they're just asking to talk to him and you are not comfortable with them talking to him, you have a constitutional right to decline." Well, Will Sutton, that made the lieutenant angry. He said, "What?" As if he was stunned that she said no. And so she asked me to come to the scene, and I did. I put my clothes on, and I went out there. And by the time...
What time was this by now?
This was after 11 p.m.
Okay.
And I didn't get inside till after 2 a.m. Dealing with this issue. And so I went there. And when I got there, there were several cars, because that's the type of show of force Gretna does. I participated in a story done by ProPublica about policing in particular parishes here in our state. Plaquemines Parish, Jefferson Parish, and Gretna, to name a few. And so if you know enough about my story, my issue with the policing in this state started in 2009 when what happened to so many people happened to me. And so this is where my fight for social justice actually started. Nobody really knows that, but there it is. So when I got there on the scene, there was a number of police cars. I got out the car. I was speaking to the mom. She's crying. I'm trying to calm her down. The police are already in the home of the young lady who is the girlfriend of the young boy. So the mom of the girlfriend of the young boy. So this is a 16-year-old child who has a girlfriend in the neighborhood whose house they are now searching. Because the mom asked them, "If I let you search my house, would you let him go?" She was under the false impression that if she did that, they were going to let him go. And they let her be under that impression. And so they went in her home, searched it, found nothing. Everybody had on black gloves. They searched the home, came out with nothing. They went in this woman's home because the kid said once he flashed the gun, he went into the home.
Oh.
So that's the story that they're telling the mom as to why they want to search the home. So when I make it there, I speak to the police officer. I walk up and I was literally like, "Hi, how y'all doing?" He's talking to the mom mid sentence. He stopped. "Who are you?" I said my name. Told him who I was. He asked me a doctor of what. I told him. I said, "But I'm actually out here as an advocate. An advocate for what? Advocate for her." I said, "Believe it or not, most people don't have um, the wherewithal, I would say, to speak to police officers. This it's not really a thing that people care to do. And then even though you might know what to say, you get flustered in the moment and the right things don't come out. And so that's why she called me. And so not once, not twice, but 3 times I identified who I was on that scene. And I was out there for hours. So they found no gun. So they then decide, since they found no gun at this home, that they're going to go now search the home of the grandmother of the young boy who also lives in the neighborhood
Well,
around
how far
the corner.
away was that house?
It was around the corner because
Oh.
what the young man was doing was he was walking from his grandmother's home to his girlfriend's home at the time when the kid identified him as the person who allegedly flashed
something.
the gun. Yes. And so we we go over to the grandma's home, and I step out of my car and I wait right at my car. And they go and they get a search warrant, which they told me initially that they will allow us to see. Well, when he got possession of the search warrant, he didn't let me see it. He didn't want me to see it. He said I could get it from the homeowner. He was very hostile. Like, I just didn't understand why the hostility. But I'm telling this story not to talk about the lieutenant, because the lieutenant is white, right? I don't have an expectation of representation when I'm talking to white police officers. They police how they see fit. There were 2 black police officers on the scene, one being a female and one being a male. And we always talk about representation here on the station, but I keep telling people representation means nothing if you're upholding white supremacy values, and I mean that. I mean that with my full chest. And so the young lady that was out there, when we made it to the second scene, I'm standing outside my car. She literally pulls up and she says, talking to Rolanda, the young lady who called me, "Isn't she your lawyer?" I said, "I am not." I said, "But you can talk directly to me. I'm standing right here." And she says, "Well, they're coming with a search warrant, and she can't go in the home without one." I said, "We understand that, which is why we're standing outside." She said, "Well, she's knocking on the door." I said, "Rolanda, do not cross the threshold of that door." That's all I said. She backed up from the door. She was trying to inform her mama that they were coming. And so again, Will, I had been out there for hours at this point. So when they go into the grandma's home, they're in there for a minimum 45 minutes with us standing outside. They come outside with a case that your gun will come in if you buy a gun. They came out with a holster that you will put your gun in because you can openly carry in the state of Louisiana. And they came out with a loader, which is something that I want that I don't have. Because when I go to the gun range, I get tired of putting my bullet in one bullet at a time. Yes. So that's what they came out with. And then they came out with marijuana. Now, I couldn't see all of the things individually because they had them in bags and they were holding them together. But it was written on the back of the search warrant that the grandmother then gave to me. And so I asked the police officer to explain to me, to the mom and to her daughter what they found. And he went through the thing. And I said, "So you're charging him with possession of marijuana?" He said, "Yes." I said, "But you didn't find marijuana in his possession." He said, "Well, it's in his house. It's in his room." I said, "Okay, Lieutenant," because I stopped it there because I know that that's not his house. I know that that's not his room. I didn't want to talk to him about it anymore. I just wanted clarity on what was happening.
What he was doing.
This child is 16 years old, and now he's being charged with possession of a firearm by a juvenile, and possession of marijuana, none of which they found on his person. Because how can you charge him with possession of a firearm and you found no firearm? They didn't find a firearm at all. I'm confusion, right? I don't know. And so now that they're getting ready to leave, I was standing there with Rolanda. I was like, you need me to drop you off home. The black female officer, she walks out with her little notepad and a pen, and she doesn't say anything to the tune of, now that the search is conducted, we have to get information on anybody at the scene. She literally walks up to me and she says, "What's your name?" I said, "Excuse me? What's your name?" I said, "What do you need my name for?" Because understand, I gave them my name.
Introduced yourself
multiple times,
2-3 times.
And she's yelling at this point. I said, "Why are you yelling?" "Well, I'm from New Orleans. This is how I talk." I say, "I'm from New Orleans too, but you're not going to talk to me like that." And she said, "Well, I'm just passionate." I said, "As am I. Ask anybody. But I'm not yelling at you, and you will not yell at me." So she was like, "Well, I talk like this when I'm right." I said, "When you're right?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Okay, well, now I don't want to talk to you at all." So you're not going to identify yourself? I said, I've done that already a multitude of times. This conversation is over. So she walks away. 15, 20 seconds later, another police officer, he's not black nor is he white, but he walked up to me and he asked me again. I said, I'm going to tell you like I told your colleague, I'm done talking to y'all. And he said, okay. And he walked away. Now I see the woman, the black woman going to my car. She's now running my license plate.
Oh.
And she's telling very, very loudly so she could get my attention, the dispatch, my name. But before that, when she walked away, when I refused to continue talking to her, she said, okay, Dr. Wyatt. I said, yep, put some respect on my name. Like that, because I knew you knew who I was. I knew you knew my name because I had given it to you already. Like, we're not about to play this antagonistic game because I wasn't talking to you. I was standing on the side waiting for it to be over. So then when I'm walking to my car, she gets in her vehicle and she drives alongside me as I'm walking to my car.
She's driving a car while you're
her
walking.
Police issue vehicle while I'm walking. It's
to
dark,
your car.
to my car. Yes.
Okay.
She drives on the side of me. She's to my left, driving on the side of me, and she stops. I don't stop though. I keep walking to my car, and then as I make it to the car, she floors the car and she pulls off. And so I called to make an official complaint, and guess who picked up the phone? Well, guess who they gave the phone to? The lieutenant that was out on the scene.
Ah.
That was fun.
Okay.
But I'm telling this story because this is exactly how most of our children get lost in a system. And I think it's very sad, you know, that we get to the point of representation, and representation rarely ever matters when they're wearing a uniform where there's a culture that they have to walk lockstep with, right? Because there would have been no reason to not show us the search warrant. You could just show it to us. I mean, it's part of community policing. If you want to actually make me feel comfortable enough to converse with you, then, you know. But he was angry because at the initial scene, I asked for everybody's name and badge number because I wanted Rolanda to know who she was interfacing with because her son was now arrested. You know, that they were pushing back on that. He told me it's going to be in a report. I said, well, why should I have to wait for a report when you're standing right here and I'm asking you for your name and badge number? That's the conversation where I told him who I was, and he was asking me all of the questions. So when I made the official complaint, I told him, I said, never once did I conceal my identity from you. I answered every question you had of me. I was out there for hours. If it was something you needed to know of me, you could have asked. But to run my license plate was antagonistic. That's what I told him. I said, and this is why, to me, people have a hard time having a collegial relationship with police officers, because it's something about that gun and that badge that makes them feel like they have some sort of, you know, they have more rights than you do as a civilian. But you don't. You do not. And you don't have to mistreat people to investigate when some sort of crime is being alleged. But all you had was the word of a child saying that another child waved a gun. There were other children on the scene who said the child didn't have a gun and he didn't wave a gun. So I'm just trying to figure out whose account, you know.
Are you listening?
That's all I'm trying to figure out. And to what end do you investigate when you went into the home where the child said that he stashed a gun and you didn't find one? So now that you didn't find one there, now you're going to go to the next house. I mean, how many homes were you going to go to before you decided that this was enough? And again, I don't know too many people, you know, they have guns and holsters and loaders that don't have legal guns, right? So somebody owns a gun, right? But the child doesn't. He's 16 years old and he wasn't in possession of a gun, nor does he own a gun. And so I just have issue. And I will call the police officers' names right now, but I just want to see how far this is going to go, because you do know Jefferson Parish Police were in my neighborhood when I arrived at home. Right. And I guess they thought that was going to be some sort of, no, they didn't greet me. You know what I mean? And they were also in my neighborhood as I was leaving for work this morning. But what I will tell people is police presence does not rattle me. It does not make me feel uncomfortable. It's not going to do anything to stop me from standing up for my community, because the lady called me because she felt like I could be of assistance. And I got out of my bed at 11 o'clock and I went
thank
there.
goodness you were there and awake and available to go out there. I mean, what time did you get in?
I didn't get in until after 2 a.m. I'm tired. And
well, thank you for being here.
Yeah, I'm going to come to work. I'm going to come to work. But the thing about it, Will, what I'm saying is I went out there because there was a 16-year-old child who needed my help. Right. That is why I went. And I'm going to keep going. And he's still... Is he okay this morning? He's still detained for an allegation of a gun that they did not find. They found marijuana, a gun holster, a gun clip, and a gun case. That's what they found at a home that belongs to his grandmother. He doesn't live there. The child was there last night so that he can go to camp this morning because the camp is closer to his grandmother's house than it is his mama's house. That's why he was there. His mother was in the process of helping him with his study for his ACTs because she's a teacher. So she wants him to start taking the test early, right? And she's a dynamic teacher because guess who was her teacher? Me. Hello. Yes. So, and I said that to say, I understand that police don't always do the right thing. It happened to me in 2009. I was on my knees handcuffed for 45 minutes because the police officer said I did a rolling stop at a stop sign.
A rolling stop?
You heard what
Handcuffs?
I said. Handcuffs.
Handcuffs for a rolling
stop. On my knees. On my knees. And that is what turned me into this. Because I said, and at the time I was a teacher with a 3-year-old baby, right? I said, if this is happening to me, certainly other people are experiencing this. And that's what turned me into who you see today. Because I don't like injustice. I can't stomach it. That is a 16-year-old baby, and I'm certain he's terrified because the whole time that they were on the scene, looking through trash cans and looking through yards, they had him in a building away from his mama, handcuffed the entire time, detained, under arrest, should I say. And then after they processed him, once they finished conducting their investigation, they were going to transport him to the Jefferson Parish juvenile lockup off of Manhattan Boulevard. And then I received a text from his mama late, because I was still up, I couldn't sleep, that said she received a call from the juvenile facility that says that he has to go before a judge on Wednesday at 9 a.m.
So he's not going to be out today?
No.
So the judge appearance is scheduled for Wednesday.
Yes. All because somebody said that he flashed a weapon. And no weapon was found in the home where they say he stashed the weapon. And so, for me, I'm saying it on this airwave because I know there are a lot of Black parents and Black grandparents who are listening.
Right.
And when we talk about that the systems are not equitable, this is the sort of thing we're talking about, right? Because I've seen a whole lot more happen to other demographic of people with a whole lot less show of force by police officers. And to have 2 Black police officers, and that was a very concise version of this story. I try to tell it to you very quickly. But you feel a sense of calm when you see somebody in a uniform that looks like they could be your auntie, your uncle, your cousin, your sister, your brother. But that calm quickly goes away when they mishandle you the same way anybody else would, right? Because I didn't say anything, and I'm so glad they all were wearing body cameras, so everything that I'm saying could be substantiated by the camera. Because they like to tell their version of stories on reports that don't necessarily align with what actually happened, right? And so I was asking the questions I was asking Will, and I had the kind of conversation I was having because I knew it's documented. So I wanted on record that I asked you for your name and badge number. I wanted on record that I told you that he's a minor and this is his mother. And you cannot talk to him without her permission. That is what made him angry because he literally said on camera, you see how cooperative this could have been? Because all of this is happening because the juvenile was uncooperative. And by uncooperative, he meant that the mom said, no, I do not give you permission to question my son. That is the uncooperative that he's speaking about.
How was the phone call with the lieutenant when you called to do the official complaint?
It was the same as I'm not done because I don't trust the conversation I had with him, so I'm going to go there today and I'm going to actually do it because my thing is I was asking him, what did you run my plate for? If I was out there and I was compliant with you, I answered the questions you asked me. There was no need to do that. But you see, you did it because you thought that it was going to come back with something, so you have a reason to interface with me again. I'm a law-abiding citizen. Let's just be clear here, right?
With a voice.
With a voice that people trust.
Right.
And that's why I was there. And I would do that for anybody, any child, any race, any ethnicity. I would do it. But especially when it's Black boys, I'm going to get up. Because I understand it's easy to get in that system and it's extremely hard to divorce that system. And that's why I went. We got to go to break them 20 minutes.
What a night.
Fast. And I'm tired, y'all. I'm running on film. But shout out to the people who I called that late because I called several people that late and they were messaging me back this morning like, Doc, I got your call last night. Is everything okay? Shout out to you. You know who you are. And thank God my phone list came through because I wouldn't have been able.
So you got all of it now?
I wouldn't have been able to.
You got all the contacts now?
Yeah. Well, they're coming slow.
Okay. So it's repopulating.
The people at Apple say I have so much stuff on my phone. It's coming
right. Okay.
very
All right.
slowly.
Well, okay.
So we got to go to break, y'all. I thank y'all for indulging me because that was on my spirit this morning. I had to get it off. And I also want to share it with the community because I believe that this is going to be a thing. And I want to make certain that people are aware of the thing that's getting ready to happen. But listen, we have to go to break. But when we come back, we're going to continue talking about it. I hope you continue to listen. And at the 7:45 mark, we'll hear from Pastor Dr. Deborah B. Morton.
All right.
Talking about the Kingdom Achievement Awards Gala. Y'all stay with us right here, WBOK, 1230 a.m. what New Orleans is talking about.
All day long.
Good morning and happy Tuesday. I'm Morgan Lentis with WDSU News, and here's a look at today's headlines. The death toll in Texas has surpassed 100 following devastating flash flooding in the central part of that state. And this morning, Louisiana continues to offer support. The United Cajun Navy is on the ground assisting with search efforts, while here at home, a local therapist is offering free counseling services to any Louisiana residents impacted by the flooding. And there are several donation sites popping up in southeast Louisiana collecting supplies for flood victims in Texas. You can drop off supplies today from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. at 1111 Newton Street in New Orleans or between 3 and 5 p.m. in Slidell at 100 Industrial Drive. Then tomorrow in Metairie, you can bring items to 737 Papworth Avenue. That's from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. We do have more details on WDSU.com. And finally, some good news to share. NORD is recognizing its lifeguards at the Stallings Gentilly Pool who rescued an unresponsive swimmer on the 4th of July. We're told the lifeguards pulled that person from the water only to realize they were not breathing. With the help of a nurse who happened to be nearby at the time, those young men performed CPR and revived the swimmer. A big shout out to them. And that's a look at today's headlines. I'm Morgan Lentis with WDSU News. Have a great day.
This is the Bloomberg Black Business Beat. The National Coalition of Black Meeting Professionals, or NCBMP, is a nonprofit focused on making life easier for black business travelers. Jason Dunn is executive director of the NCBMP, and in a conversation on Bloomberg, he talked about how the work his group is doing extends beyond just business conferences.
It's not just conventions and meetings, but also sports. In fact, one of our members have the largest kickball tournament in the country.
Whether it's a big corporate meeting or a kickball tournament, Dunn says the bottom line for NCBMP is that the host site is welcoming to diverse travelers. And in the coming year, his sights are set beyond the U.S.
We know that Asia and Africa specifically are destinations for our members who want to create that international flair.
As more black professionals enter leadership ranks, making sure business travel is safe becomes more and more important. I'm Bloomberg's Justin Milliner on the Black Business Beat.
Working as a dedicated Fidelity advisor, I always ask, what's important to you? I'll look at those priorities and goals alongside your full financial picture to build a comprehensive plan designed to help grow and protect your wealth. With proactive portfolio insights and an eye on taxes, I'm here to help you make the most of your money. I'm Laura Maxwell, and I'm a dedicated Fidelity advisor. Learn more at fidelity.com/wealth. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
Okay, raise your hand if you want to make your life a little bit easier. Great. Now raise your other hand if you like to be comfortable. Perfect. Now that you have both hands raised, imagine putting on your shoes. And that, folks, right there is your answer to an easier, more comfortable life. Go hands-free with Skechers Slip-ins. This is footwear you don't need your hands to put on. They can be raised in the air, and you can just step it and go. Why don't you experience what people can't stop talking about? Life-changing Skechers Slip-ins. Get your Slip-ins at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
Hello, friend. Tavis Smiley here with a special announcement. You can catch my show at a new time. Weekdays from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Same great topics, same great guests, same great conversations, just a little earlier in the day. It's Tavis Smiley, weekdays 1 to 4 p.m. only on WBOK 1230 a.m. What New Orleans is talking about.
Hello, New Orleans. I am Frank Scurlock. I am a candidate as a no-party candidate for the wonderful city of New Orleans for mayor. That's right. I'm a new kid in town. I'm not a politician. I'm simply business, and I want no nonsense. We've seen the problems. We've heard the promises. Nothing ever gets done. So go to frankscurlock4mayor.com. This is paid for by the Committee to Elect Frank Scurlock.
Hey, New Orleans, look for important changes to your natural gas service. This summer, Delta Utilities takes over for Entergy Gas with a Louisiana-born, Louisiana-based approach to safe, clean, reliable natural gas. No interruptions or rate changes due to the transition, just dependable service and modernized technology to keep you running smoothly. Get to know us at deltautilities.com and stay tuned for more later this summer. Delta Utilities, focused on natural gas, committed to New Orleans.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, wake up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK.
And we are back. Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I am your host, Dr. Ashad Sawai. Shout out to our intern back there holding it down in the absence of my super producer, Myron Sanders, and my co-host, Will Sutton.
Good morning.
If
good morning.
you just joined the conversation, we were having a good one. And I've provided Will Sutton with some documents that go along with the story I was just telling about this 16-year-old young man who was arrested by Gretna police because someone alleged that he flashed a weapon last night in the neighborhood where his grandmother lives. And you want this one?
Yes.
And I provided Will Sutton with the search warrant. And
so here's what I want to know. Okay.
Ask
all
away.
right. I mean, you've had this in your possession for some hours.
Yes.
I'm just seeing this.
Yes.
I'm just seeing this, and I'm listening to you.
Yes.
A trusted source.
Yes.
Okay, because you were there.
Yes.
So eyewitness, and based on what you said, you provided all of us a list of what they found.
Yes. Which is written on the back of the initial search warrant. It's right there in the police
and so that
officer's
includes 2 black Ziploc type baggies of green veg-like matter, black speed loader. A lot of people would like one.
Yeah.
Black belt holster. Hopefully people have one, depending on how you use your gun. A black empty Canik gun case. Sounds like ownership materials, as opposed to I just got a gun and I got it from from somebody.
Yeah.
So I heard you say the list, but I wanted to see the list.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
But I'm looking at the list, and the list doesn't include a gun.
It does not.
Oh, okay, but all right. So this Jefferson Parish Juvenile Court affidavit for search and seizure says 1 count, obstruction of justice.
A felony.
I'm sorry, I'm an editor. It actually says obstruction of justice.
And what we said about words when it stops you full in your track, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Obstruction spelled wrong, y'all.
Yeah.
I know you can't see it. It says aggravated assault with a firearm.
Another felony charge.
Illegal possession of a firearm by a juvenile. So here's what I want to know. And I'm going to ask you, because you were there, because you've been a part of this, but how can somebody be alleged to be charged with these offenses, of with a firearm, possession of a firearm, if there is no firearm?
Well, that's why I called the folk that I called last night, because if you got a call from me late last night, it's because I called the folk that I knew could get me the answers or get me to the person with the answers, and I trust them on some level. So that says a lot about you if I called you last night, because it was very, very late, but I needed to have some legal footing, and that's why I made the calls that I made. I am nobody's lawyer. I'm an educator.
You don't play one on
TV. A little bit. I do not. I have never gone around and presented myself to be an attorney. Right. Never done that. And so even with the young lady, the black girl pulling up to me talking about, isn't this your lawyer? She was talking to the mom, but she was talking about me. We're standing side by side. It's antagonistic is what it is. I say, no, I'm not. I say, but you can speak to me. I'm standing right here. They don't like that because I'm trying to understand, how do you charge a 16-year-old child with obstruction of justice as a felony because he just declined to speak to you?
Well, that's the other piece, the obstruction of justice.
Right.
So if I say I'm
do
not
I not
going to
have a
talk,
constitutional right to say, no, I don't want to talk to you? What justice am I obstructing?
so
That's my right.
this without any other information,
Yeah.
this would be disturbing to me if it were my 70-year-old friend.
Yeah.
Or if it was my 17-year-old kid, or if it was my 27-year-old nephew, because it seems that there is no gun that should prop these
you
things.
have their handwriting. That's the police officer's handwriting on the back. It's right here on this back. They found no weapon. They found things associated with the purchase of a weapon because that's all the stuff your case and all of you buy the extra stuff to go with it. But again, that's not his home. That is his grandmother's house.
Well, thank you for your advocacy on the ground last night.
Yeah.
This is another example of why we need more community education about situations like this.
Yeah.
So that people can know what they can and can't do, because there's a lot you don't have to do.
Yeah.
But you have to do it in a way that, is it going to...
More often than not, Will, when I'm out in the community, I'm not advocating for myself or my own
Right,
child.
yeah.
I'm out there doing it because other churches, because now we have a situation where a mom who's a teacher, I'm not counting her pockets, but I do know she's residing with her sister right now. So I do know she doesn't have money to pay an attorney to represent her child for charges that I believe missed the mark. Right? And police officers should not have a blank slate to just do as they please. I don't understand this. And this is the sole reason why I'm going to law school. I don't even want to practice law. I just want to know what I'm talking about. And I want to know what you're talking about when you say it, right? That is literally why I'm doing it. I have time and I want to know it. That's the thing that folk don't understand about me. Half the time it's just stuff I want to know.
Yeah.
And if it dog me enough, I'ma dig and I'ma go find it. And what they don't understand is I'ma dig on every last one of these police officers. I want to know what your jacket look like. I want to know what your arrest record look like. I want to know the demographics of the people that you're accosting in Gretna. I want to know that. And if you think that putting police vehicles in my neighborhood or pulling me over like y'all like to do is going to stop me from doing it, you can have at it. Because what I will tell you is I'm a law-abiding citizen. I am. I am. I just happen to be in a position to have been wronged by a system, and I can see where folk so easily get caught up in these systems. This is a 16-year-old baby who I know is probably losing his mind because he's been arrested and been incarcerated all night, and he can't see a judge until Wednesday. Something about this don't smell right to me. Like I like to tell you, Will, something in the water ain't clean.
Right.
Because what? Right?
Yeah.
Somebody calling, and I want to hear what you have to say. Is that Matt? Good morning, Matt. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. Is that Matt? Hello? Are you there?
Matt, this is Miss Matthews.
Hi, Miss Matthews. How you doing?
All right. Look, I would just want to say kudos to you. Thank God for people like you, Dr. Wyatt, because, to me, you exhibit that sense of community that we used to have, where people kind of just look out for people just because,
Yeah.
And I heard you say, because Gretna, Westwego, those places, they have a history of, abusing the law,
Yeah.
So, but I heard you mention something about ProPublica.
Yes, ProPublica
And
did an
saying
investigation, yes.
This might be a good story to send to them to kind of like follow up on too. They may be interested in it.
Oh, I have them in my phone. Don't you
All
worry.
right, well, good.
I am on
because
it, Miss
from this what you
Matthews.
said, we both know that child shouldn't have been charged with that, but they just do it just because,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just want to tell you, thank God for people like you.
Thank you, Miss Matthews. I appreciate you. Have a
all
blessed
right.
one.
Thanks for calling.
And listen, and the thing about it though, Will, is as a parent, I see everybody's child as my kid. Like I see my son every time I see, especially a young boy when I'm sitting in these courtrooms and all I see is our children shackled. That's all I see in these courtrooms in New Orleans is our babies walking out as if they have no name, no identity, no family. And more often than not, a lot of them are facing a judge with no support system in the courtroom. Right? This is infuriating to me, to be 16 years old and to have somebody just say something about you, and police can go to this extreme to try to prove something, because I believe ego had a lot to do with the lengths this particular officer went. You know, and when if it gets to the point where I'm gonna share his name, I will. But I mean, because I know there's more, right? I know they're gonna do more. But I also want to understand the system of how search warrants are produced, because it seems to me there should be a threshold where police officers have to provide some sort of evidence, some sort of probable cause, something that warrants a judge to put their signature on a document that gives them access to people's homes. Right? Yeah. I should not live in fear of the police in my community. And Gretna is notorious for doing business how they want to do business. And it's not okay. Now this baby, and he's a baby, he's 16 years old, he cannot drink. I don't know, he could get a temporary license maybe at 16? One of those
learning permits,
right? He can't do much of anything at 16, but now he has 2 felony charges on him and a misdemeanor charge, all that revolve around a weapon that nobody found. Can we make that make sense? I just need a lawyer. Is anybody listening that has some sort of law, some law grounding where y'all can share with us what's supposed to happen?
How is this possible?
I don't know how is this possible. 504-582-9422. Because again, as a parent, if I'm reading this, how does my baby obstruct justice if you ask me, can you talk to him? And I say, no, I do not want you talking to him.
Yeah.
And because I said no, then that's what made you arrest him? Or detain him. They like to say that, because, they like to play with those 2 words as if they're one and the same, and they're not. And then he has 1 count of obstruction of justice, which is a felony. Louisiana Revised Statute 14130.1, aggravated assault with a firearm, another felony. Louisiana Revised Statute 1437.4, and illegal possession of a firearm by a juvenile. Louisiana Revised Statute 1495.8. Possession of a firearm with no firearm being possessed. I need to look up the definition of these statutes, because clearly they don't read how they're labeled. I don't know.
This sounds like a mess.
I don't know, Mr.
I'm glad the kid is alive.
Yes, yeah. But isn't that jarring to have to say?
Yeah,
like, I'm glad he's alive.
It is.
I'm frustrated, Will Sutton. Somebody needs to do something about this. Somebody in a position of authority needs to do something about this, because what I do know is these folks are emboldened to do these things because nobody checks them. The reason why bully continue to bully is because nobody done punched the bully in their mouth. And this has to stop. Like 16 years old, 2 felony counts and a misdemeanor count, and now your mama have to find you some legal counsel to be able to represent you, which is going to cost money that she doesn't have. And more often than not, this is how our children acquiesce to plea deals. This is how they get caught up in a trap of a system, because they can't afford legal representation. They can't afford to miss work to fight certain charges. She's a teacher who's working a summer camp to make extra money over the summer. That's what she's doing right now. Living with her sister to be able to put the ends together, right? This is insane to me. I'm angry about it, and it's not even my baby. But he is my baby. All of us should be outraged.
They all are babies.
Right? Because they teach us every single day that there are 2 judicial systems, seemingly, right? I told you on these airwaves, I watched a white man, remember I told you that? Fight 3-4 police officers. I mean, punching on them.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody pulled a gun. Nobody pulled a taser. Nobody even pulled their little billy club like they did Rodney King out there in the early 90s. Nobody did any of that.
Right.
No pepper spray, no nothing. And this white man is pummeling them one by one, punching them down.
I saw the video. I mean, it was like amazing.
Or a white lady that got out of her car just recently and pointed a weapon at them. We remember I showed you that video too.
Saw that one too.
Nobody
Yep.
shot her.
No.
Nobody tased her. I'm angry. And I'm angry at the two officers who are supposed to wear that uniform to ensure that our communities have equity to policing.
Mm-hmm.
And you do your job in the same vein as white supremacy. I have no respect for it. And when the time comes, I'll call you by name. Since you know my name, I know your name. I know your full name. Because I didn't go to sleep till I looked them up. I know everything about you now, just like I'm certain that you think you know everything about me. The art of war dictates that for me. I'm serious about this. I am not joking. I don't get out of my bed at 11 o'clock at night to play no games with anybody. And I had to be to work.
Yeah.
In a handful of hours, and I'm outside in Gretna
right.
in the dark, advocating for a 16-year-old baby by myself. Something has to change about this. And I just wish somebody with some legal footing can tell me what needs to be done, because I'm nobody's lawyer yet. I'm nobody's lawyer yet. Oh, but I'm a critical thinker and I'm a researcher. And if it's out there to find, I'm going to find it.
I'm glad you were on the scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who knows what might have happened?
That's the thought
really,
Bill, that keeps me up at night for a lot of our children. Because but for the right kind of intervention, a lot of our children would be in a better situation if they had somebody that they could call, somebody who can speak up for them. You know how many hearings I've sat in for kids who are expelled from school and they don't have a parent or anybody. They just go into the hearings with their cousin or some sort of adult who has no understanding of what they're there for. And I'm like, I'm going to go in the room with you. Because I'm there advocating for another child, but I'm not going to let you go in the room by yourself and you don't understand what's happening. You say the wrong thing, you do the wrong thing. These kids can be expelled for the rest of the school year.
Yeah.
And we're talking, the last young lady I did that for, she was in her senior year, 20 days from graduating. That's unacceptable to me. So I'm going to step in if I need to step in. But more often than not, I pay a steep price for the work that I do, a very, very steep price. And it's one I'm going to continue to pay until people respect our children and respect our right to exist in the world and have equity in our existence. I'm going to keep saying something about it. I didn't have to go out there last night, but I did it because that could be Cam.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Because it certainly wasn't going to be Lance Robert Jr. who wrote me this nice note, y'all. I don't know if y'all remember Lance Robert Jr., our author, who we interviewed
a few weeks ago,
a couple weeks ago. And y'all, if you're watching, y'all can see it. But baby, it's this cute. He typed me a note, and he mailed it to the station for me. Boy, I'm gonna put you on my Christmas list. Now your little gift card might be $5, but I'm gonna think about you at Christmas time. Get your little ornament or something to hang on your tree. But go ahead, Lance. You a bad boy. I live for Lance. Lance is a author. I think he's an entrepreneur at this point.
He's author.
He's a critical thinker.
He's a filmmaker. 16 years old.
He's eloquent.
Yeah.
Come on now. Shout out to you, Lance, and your parents. Shout out to your parents for doing what is necessary to ensure that you have the best opportunity. But I'm going to also say this. I do the work that I do because guess what? They could have cost Lance at some point.
Absolutely.
He doesn't deserve, because they don't know all of those wonderful things about him.
Right.
He's just a black boy out there in the world trying to thrive, right? It could very well be Lance. And that is why I do this work, because we need to make certain that somebody's standing up for the children. Hey, Aaron, how you doing, baby? Welcome to the Good Morning Show. I got a couple seconds before I go to break. Go ahead.
Hey, it don't take all night to do what you got to do. You heard me? But I just want to say my first shout out to the Fatherhood Roundtable as well as the Huey P. New Gun Club, Louisiana. I appreciate you from doing what you do. I know I ain't got to tell you that, but I still got to tell you that. I just want to say that a lot of people don't understand the work that it takes to do the things that we do until things come knocking at their front door. You dig?
Yeah.
So we trying to stay ahead of things to avoid certain things from coming to knock at y'all front door. So when y'all see us talk the way we talk, walk the way we walk, right, don't get in the way of that. Y'all supposed to be standing behind us because, again, just like Doc just said, we not out here just advocating for our children. We advocating for y'all children that could possibly be our children. And also, we don't want to see it happen to our children, which is why we dedicating ourselves to y'all children, which is our children. And that's why we take and walk the way we walk, talk the way we talk, and do the things that we do. Not just for us, but for our community. And we're willing to put it all on the line for our community, which is why my sister did what she did last night. And not just last night, but through every aspect of her life. And I'm going to just stop right there.
Thank you, Aaron.
We got to get on the ball and do the things that we need to do, y'all, for real. Because guess what? Just like Gretna did what they did last night, this could be one of your children next week or even tonight.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate
Thanks for
your
calling.
family. Listen, I got to go to break, but when we come back, we're going to talk to the esteemed pastor, Dr. Deborah B. Morton. She'll be here talking about Bishop Paul S. Morton. He is to be honored at the Kingdom Achievement Awards Gala in celebration of his 75th birthday. Happy birthday, Bishop. We're going to talk to the First Lady on the other side of the break. This is WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about.
All day long.
This is your news update for WBOK from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
Today's shaping up to be another wet one as we approach the afternoon. Another chance for widespread storms. Sun could bring heavy downpours, gusty winds, and localized flooding. Highs in the low 90s, feeling like the upper 90s to low 100s. Storm chances in 90s. Stick around for the rest of the week. From the WDSU First Warning Weather Center, I'm Raven Reshaw.
Hello, I'm Gary Clark. Please tune in to Dr. Clark 101, The Living Classroom, which is broadcasted weekly every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. on WBOK 1230 a.m. on your dial. And as always, it's been a pleasure.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival presented by Shell. With the funds generated from Jazz Fest, the foundation invests in Louisiana communities through economic development, cultural enrichment, and free educational programs. To learn more about the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation, please visit us at www.jazzandheritage.org.
Welcome to Liberty Bank and Trust, where your financial journey transforms communities. Since 1972, our customized banking solutions power your dreams and fuel your community growth. Every dollar you invest with us circles back to empower more people, ensuring opportunities for generations. Join us at Liberty Bank. Together, we empower possibility. Visit libertybank.net to start banking with purpose. Liberty Bank, there's freedom here.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by
The following
AbbVie.
is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways with the purchase of soliciting sales of vacation ownership. For complete details, visit fvgradio.com. If you want a 100% complimentary stay at a luxurious resort in Cancun, airfare not included, then the Family Vacation Getaway is your ticket to paradise. See website for complete details. We're giving away 5 days and 4 nights to the first 50 callers who can name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. An animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. Do you know? Call 800-460-9319. 800-460-9319. You're also eligible for an exciting bonus vacation to Orlando, Florida for just $498. Don't worry about anything ruining your plans. We extend your travel up to 18 months. Name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird, and you get a complimentary Cancun resort stay and an optional bonus vacation to Orlando for just $498. What are you waiting for? Call 800-460-9319. 800-460-9319 and give us your answer. This proceeding is not a contest and is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways and not sponsored by this program or its affiliates.
Good morning, Wake Up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
to the Good Morning Show. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. Shout out to our interns behind the glass holding it down for us this morning. And to my co-host, Will Sutton.
Good morning.
Our super producer is not in the building this morning because he was getting his celebration on with his pastor, First Lady, Dr. Deborah Gordon, over there at his church. He was singing with an A, you know what I mean?
Yes,
He was
indeed.
singing. And we happen to have the First Lady and the pastor on the line with us because she's here talking about Bishop Paul S. Morton and his he's being honored at the Kingdom Achievement Awards Gala celebration in honor of his 75th birthday. 75.
Now, some of the people, some of the people certainly recognize those who are on Facebook, but we got somebody else in studio.
Well, we gonna tell them who he is. I was trying to surprise the people with our special guest, the one and only Victor Sims. But we're gonna get to him. But right now, we are in conversation with First Lady, Pastor Dr. Deborah B. Morton. Thank you for coming back to the Good Morning Show. How are you this morning?
Oh, I'm blessed, Dr. White. Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
I was telling Will, I like talking to you in person. It's nothing like talking to you in person because the story's story in person. But thank you for being here. The bishop is getting ready to turn 75 years old, and he is being honored at the Kingdom Achievement Awards Gala. Where is that gala happening? And who can we expect to be in the building in celebration of Bishop Paul S. Morton?
Well, we're going to have it at Greater St. Stephen, Full Gospel Baptist Church, 5600 Reed Boulevard, and in New Orleans East. And, of course, we're excited about it. And it's the Kingdom Achievement Awards, and it's a vision that God gave me to celebrate such a milestone birthday, which is his 75th birthday, and we've been married 48 years. And
all right. Wow, wonderful.
Yeah, and so we're just excited about it, and we just wanted to talk about it and let the world know what a strong, consistent kingdom leader Bishop has been. He's also my pastor, so I have to switch roles. I can't fuss at him sometimes because then, he's in pastor mode. And so I have to leave, wife mode, husband mode, and then fuss at him. So this time I'm celebrating him. Yes.
But this is a celebration.
Yes, and it is taking place Friday, July 11th. It is a red carpet affair, y'all. It starts at 4:30 p.m. The gala will commence at 6 p.m. and there's a VIP patron party at 8:30 p.m. Oh, they're gonna have a time over there celebrating the bishop for his 75th birthday. I could only imagine the who's who of this city. I absolutely will be in the building. This is a black tie event being held at Greater St. Stephen, 5600 Reed Boulevard, with the red carpet beginning at 4:30. I think that's a celebration fit for his honor, don't you think, Will?
Absolutely. So it's more than a birthday celebration. This is kind of a legacy for him, and you've been along his side for this journey for quite some time. So, in your words, what would you say are important parts of Bishop's legacy that people should be aware of and that you'll be celebrating on July 11th?
Well, first thing is, Bishop, I'm a NOLA girl, and I'm a 6-year-old Greater St. Stephen member. I was baptized there. My granny was one of the 69 founders of Greater, which I had no knowledge of, and out of a divorce. So there's a lot of bad things. Here comes God setting up purpose. Bishop comes from Canada and says, the Lord says, you're going to be my wife. I fought him, and I fought him until I said, God said, hey. So I said, yes. So what people need to know about Bishop, though, is that even though he came to the city and he had lost father, mother, clothes, car, and God says, get to New Orleans. And Bishop came here and became a true NOLA man. I mean, I wanted to move away after college. Everybody wants to get away. I wanted to go to UCLA and then go to New York and live there. And of course, do what you guys do. Be on TV, radio, whatever. And my major is communication, but he says, the Lord says you stay here. So we stayed here together. And Bishop loved Nola almost more than me. I'm like, listen, I'm out of here. But he says, no, I found God for real. He was so happy about being here. The people embraced him, and he loved our church. He worked under my pastor. I watched him before we became a couple. I watched him humble himself, but more than that, for the community, for the people, an advocate even in the things when you talk about politics and what's right. He preached a very famous message, pardon me, it was when we were introducing gambling and people all over, they want to bring it. And he says, the city is in trouble and it's the church's fault. He came from Pentecostal. We had different backgrounds, but then eventually we merged. So caring, outreach, again, I was there so long, I'm just like dirt at Greater. But my granny was over missions. Every Saturday we gave out food, and every Saturday we gave out clothing. And so Bishop picked up that same mission mindset from his father in their church in Canada and in Michigan. And so he was a pastor's kid. He already had a perspective. His dad told him, raised him up, they said, when he was born, and said, this should be another Apostle Paul. And sure enough, the Lord expanded his ministry. He was here working in the trenches in New Orleans, but going all over during the week. People didn't know that. He would preach 5-day revivals, making just little, like $100, but he would be driving and flying. And I was like, what is he doing? Because I wasn't from a pastor's home. But, the Lord called us together, and so we've been working ministry for these years. And I'm just so proud of him because, again, he's not just my husband. He is my pastor. And, of course, now my pastor is my son-in-law and my daughter, Dr. T. Delbert Robinson, and Lady and Elder Jasmine Robinson. But we're overseers at the church, and we're just watching them, and if they need guidance, we're there. But to see this thing go on and on. So the Kingdom Achievement Awards, I was like, how can I celebrate him? Last year I turned 70, and I had, I'm New Orleans. I'm a party girl as much as you could party in church, but I took my birthday to Miami. I launched my Father's Love nonprofit with a Hollywood glamour party, and the next day we were on a yacht. So that's me. Bishop is church. So I was like, what can I do? Bishop don't want to party down. I said, what can I do? And then the Lord gave me this. And so this is his birthday celebration in the form of an Oscar-style award show. And so we have many guests coming. And I'll stop there if you have another question, but it's going to be fabulous. As she said, red carpet. I want y'all to pray against the rain. It's all happening at 5600 Reed, but the red carpet is there, and we'll have small bites to eat, and we'll have interviewers. It's going to be fabulous. Then inside of the sanctuary will become the place of the awards show, and awards will be given out. Pardon me. And we will, of course, have many guests. William Murphy, we have Anita Wilson, Brian Pierce, our presidium is going to be there because, we're right. We'll be coming out of the Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship conference at the Hilton and down at the Convention Center, which is what Bishop launched. He is the founder of the Full Gospel. So last night we recorded after his 40th year, his first album in New Orleans was with the Greater Choir. We did a recording last night, a re-recording of that choir and Bishop and a lot of guests. So we've been out late. I told you we're church, so I can't hang out like in college. I sound sleepy. But we're supposed to be at church this morning at the Convention Center. So it's just a whole week of celebration, but it's in honor of him. Bishop, presiding Bishop Walker and his wife, they were there. The whole presidium was there. The bishops were there at the recording. We were so very blessed. So I'm just excited. I wanted everyone to know, of course, Eventbrite is shut down because now the event is less than 7 days away. Givelify, you can buy your ticket. The VIP patron is full, the patron party, and that's where his colleagues will give tribute to him on open mic, and Anita Wilson. So we really planned a big shindig for him, because this is the way he has fun. You know, I do it my way. This is his way, but we both love the Lord. And just wanted to celebrate him for his the legacy that he's created, and the one that will continue way after our eyes are closed and we're looking down from heaven.
So, Pastor, this is Will Sutton. And aren't you glad you changed your mind and said yes?
Oh, that's just like a man. Look what he focused on. Absolutely.
That's why I have to always hold it down.
You got to come back, Dr. What, because you know they're going to get me. Bishop told that last night. He tells it every time he gets on a mic. She gave me a hard time. Just leave that part alone. I finally lined up with God. Let's talk about my lining up.
Well, Pastor, I want you to know my wife of 42 years told me no before she said yes.
We got to teach the young girls. Don't say yes so
Yes,
fast.
she did.
Yes, you got to.
Oh, yes, she
Dr.
did.
Wyatt, y'all got to bring them along.
So I had some work to do. So I took that
for
lesson.
42 years. That's amazing.
I took that lesson, and it's like, God, you told me this is my prime rib now, but she just said no. So we got work to do.
Yeah, some straightening to do.
Yeah, Bishop said I wasn't spiritual because I rejected him. I said, no, you had nothing to do with the spirit. You had other girlfriends. And he said, oh, God, here we go. But I love him so much, and my three beautiful kids. I want to shout out to P.J. Morton, Jasmine Robinson, and Christiana Ani, because out of us came these babies, and they made us so very proud. And I just thank God. If I wasn't in line, I got in line, and God did a marvelous work. And I'm just shouting it from the rooftops. I want people to know I celebrate marriage. I celebrate. When I was single, But, you know, you walk right and you hear God, and then God puts you with someone, if you will, that will help you live out purpose in your life. So I'm grateful and produce these beautiful seeds, and now they're doing their thing, and God is all in it. So, yes, I understand, but you didn't have to bring that point up, sir. Now you're letting the devil use you. But I'm so proud of you guys as well.
Somebody had to save him, Pastor. Somebody had to save him.
Well, Pastor's not here, so the bishop's not here.
Somebody had to save him, Pastor.
I got to get my little self down there.
Yeah. So if you could describe Bishop Paul S. Morton in just 3 words, what would they be?
You'll be shocked at this first word, shy.
Shy? You talking about the Webster definition of shy? Like
shy.
Okay. All right, let's hear the rest of your list. We kind of stuck on that one, but you got 2 more.
Influential.
Okay.
Powerfully God-fearing.
See, that's just like a woman. You tell her 3 words, and she figure out a way to make one of them a descriptor of the word she wants.
I'm a communications major.
I'm not mad at it.
Powerfully
yeah, of course.
God-fearing.
Pastor, how are you? My name is Victor Sims. I'm a therapist, and I assist people with marriages. And one of the things that you said really struck out to me. The type of man who the bishop is, and the type of lady who you are. Marriages are difficult things to address and deal with. And a lot of times, long-term marriage, because I also am in a 40-year marriage, and yes, I tried to get thrown away at least twice, but I hung in there.
Yeah, right.
So it must be something about the rejection that says you need to hang in there. But the question I have for you is separating the roles from wife to parishioner to first lady. Many individuals have a difficult time separating who they are, because the wife, and we all know, and that the wife is a lot more powerful. In your situation, your husband is a very powerful man. And inside your home, how do you be able to shift between the wife mode and the parishioner mode?
So, good question. So we're both leaders. I didn't know I was a leader, and he brought some of that out of me, and then he rejected it. It's like I'm the man of this house. So the old saying is, the man is the head, but the woman is the neck. But we understand. So the Bible says, "I give you a helpmeet," and that's scriptural and scripture. And so we're scripturally based. So now we tug it out sometimes because we're both leaders. But at the end of the day, I submit to God, which means I submit to Him for our family and our home. But and then sometimes in business deals, the man also has to humble himself before God, because at the end of the day, the Bible said the two shall become one. So it's not really two anymore; it's one. And so we get on one accord. Either we fight it out, and I don't mean fist fight. We fuss it out, or every human, or we sit down and agree it out. We see, and then the husband shares his part, I share my part, and then we take the good from each and say, okay, well, this is what we'll do. This is how we raise. We never were confused, and maybe I get a little confused sometimes because I'm like, listen, but we get with God, and that's why I'm so grateful to Him. I married a praying man because, y'all have egos, and it's hard to put it under because I believe God gave that for a reason for you guys to lead us. But when in our world, men, not putting them down, a lot of men have fallen short because, again, my nonprofit, The Father's Love, Let the Healing Begin, because they didn't have someone to teach you, and you can't go where you can't lead where you have never been. And so that's why I'm really big on pushing fathers to be there with their kids and children that not reject their fathers, and why women not to put them down so bad, because kids need their fathers just like they need their mothers. And so when you have that balance and you have that understanding, you will come to a place of agreement. The Bible talks about the power of agreement, and that's really what it's about. We agree to disagree at times. Well, I think the kids should do it, and I think the kids should do this. Well, I think da-da-da with the house. But eventually, we submit to what we hear God is saying. And something worked 48 years. Something worked with you, Dr. Sims, because you come to that agreement. Now, you might walk around a couple of days, with your feelings hurt. Yep. And roll your eyes and said, I'm not cooking today. And he might be in the room locked up. But when we come out, it's like, oh, honey, I miss you. And then we're okay again. Beautiful. So, yeah, we have that. And I'm going to say this final thing. Because of Full Gospel, as I said, I didn't even realize I was a leader. I was in my church, and I always worked and all, not a pastor's home. And Bishop, in their home, they were taught to be leaders. And so we got 3 preachers out of his home, his sister, everybody. They kind of like were pushed into that. Yet Bishop was shy, so sometimes he even needs me to push out because really he likes to be quiet. You wouldn't believe that. But I had an opportunity through Full Gospel to train and counsel hundreds of wives. Hundreds. I was over the women. And I will say because of that, we don't have a lot of divorces in Full Gospel. We don't have a lot of mess in Full Gospel because what we did in our lives, we poured that into them. Bishop with the men, how to be a husband, how to do this, publicly saying some things, my wife didn't want da-da-da. But this, showing them that this is okay. And then me privately teaching a lot of women. And I'm so grateful to God because the church, when it's infused with the community, you realize you're dealing with the same people the same people that come into that church live in that house down the street or across the way. And they have to make it happen in that house. And so you have to, God gave us that privilege all over the world. I mean, I have sons and daughters. I just counsel some people I got in Africa, in London. They know when they hit a glitch, we know who we can call, and they're going to be solid. So that's my answer to that. That question.
First Lady, Pastor Dr. Deborah B. Morton, we thank you for joining us, talking to us about this 75th birthday celebration in honor of Bishop Paul S. Morton, which is taking place Friday, July 11th. A red carpet event starting at 4:30 at Greater St. Stephen at 5600 Reed Boulevard. Some of the confirmed guests are Congressman Troy A. Carter, Mayor of New Orleans LaToya Cantrell, Louisiana State Senator Royce Duplessis, Louisiana State Senator Gary Carter, and New Orleans District E Council Member Oliver M. Thomas. I'm certain that list
I'm sure
goes
that's just
on
a
and
start.
on, but as far as the pressure that's in my hands,
yes, and they will
those are the
be presenting
confirmed.
that community award. Yes,
Absolutely.
Thank
Those are the confirmed attendees, but we want to thank you for joining us this morning. I pray for a
you.
successful and abundant celebration for the bishop. Thank you for your service to this community, and we appreciate you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Dr. White. Such a pleasure. And Dr. Sim, God bless you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Listen, we have to go to break, y'all. But when we come back, we're going to talk to the man with the very influential question that he asked, because you know he counseled people in marriages. And let me tell y'all something. I feel like I'm on an island right now because the first lady was married longer than I've been alive. This man to my left been married longer than I've been alive, and a man to my right been married longer than I've been alive. But the one thing they all have in common, baby, they married a black woman. Somebody's doing it right. Y'all stay with us right here at WBOK 1230 AM. What you are just talking about
all day long.
WBOK New Orleans, home of the Good Morning Show, 7 to 9 a.m. weekdays.
This news report is brought to you by New Schools for New Orleans.
New Schools for New Orleans, along with New Orleans Public Schools and the Cowell Institute, are excited to announce the launch of a new digital tool on the data dashboard. New Orleans Public Schools, 20 years later, a timeline of recovery, transformation, and growth. The tool provides data, information, and context on the past 20 years of K-12 education in New Orleans, the changes that occurred, and the outcomes these changes helped produce. Visit nolapublicschools.com/K20 to view the tool and learn more.
I'm Tammy Eswick with BIN News Now. The National UFO Reporting Center releasing a new report on sightings in New York. They say there's been 66 reports of unidentified flying objects so far this year, with 6 sightings in June alone.
That's believable because we can't be the only people out here, honestly.
But some New Yorkers are skeptical.
Seeing is believing, so I gotta see it to believe it.
If I seen it, I would believe it.
What was it that Mulder from the X-Files used to say? I want to believe. But then again, he also said, trust no one. According to a new World Atlas analysis ranking the worst fast food in America, they say Wendy's was top of the list. Black Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass talking about her confrontation with ICE on Monday. She says ICE and National Guard troops swarmed a park where kids were, rattling them. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Good morning, wake up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
This is Monica Pierre along with Sally Ann Roberts-Daybone, co-host of Your Power is On.
Tune in Sunday mornings from 7 to 8 a.m. for music that feeds the spirit. Get your Sunday on.
Right here on WBOK 1230 AM and WBOK1230.com, the station you listen to all day long.
Good morning and happy Tuesday. I'm Morgan Lentis with WDSU News, and here's a look at today's headlines. The death toll in Texas has surpassed 100 following devastating flash flooding in the central part of that state. And this morning, Louisiana continues to offer support. The United Cajun Navy is on the ground assisting with search efforts, while here at home, a local therapist is offering free counseling services to any Louisiana residents impacted by the flooding. And there are several donation sites popping up in southeast Louisiana collecting supplies for flood victims in Texas. You can drop off supplies today from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. at 1111 Newton Street in New Orleans, or between 3 and 5 p.m. in Slidell at 100 Industrial Drive. Then tomorrow in Metairie, you can bring items to 737 Papworth Avenue. That's from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. We do have more details on WDSU.com. And finally, some good news to share. NORD is recognizing its lifeguards at the Stallings Gentili Pool who rescued an unresponsive swimmer on the 4th of July. We're told the lifeguards pulled that person from the water only to realize they were not breathing. With the help of a nurse who happened to be nearby at the time, those young men performed CPR and revived the swimmer. A big shout out to them. And that's a look at today's headlines. I'm Morgan Lentis with WDSU News. Have a great day.
Hello, New Orleans. I am Frank Skurlock. I am a candidate as a no-party candidate for the wonderful city of New Orleans for mayor. That's right. I'm a new kid in town. I'm not a politician. I'm simply business, and I want no nonsense. We've seen the problems. We've heard the promises. Nothing ever gets done. So go to frankskurlock4mayor.com. This is paid for by the Committee to Elect Frank Skurlock.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, and on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, wake up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK.
And we are back. Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. Shout out to my intern back there waving and landing the plane for me so I can know when to come in. The interns are doing an amazing job learning how to work the boards, and we are so grateful to have them. My niece Anais is supposed to be one of the interns here, and I know her mom is listening, so you need to put her some clothes on and send her down to the station. The invitation is there. The door is open. Come on down and learn the tricks of the trade. But right now, we are very excited to have the one and only Victor Sims in studio with us this morning. He sat in on the last segment with Pastor Dr. Deborah B. Morton talking about the Kingdom Achievement Awards Gala in honor of the 75th birthday of Bishop Paul S. Morton. He even asked a question as only a therapist could do, right? And so Victor is amazing at what he does, and we're always happy to have him. But today we're going to talk about managing anger.
Managing anger.
And I don't know, how well I manage it, but I know it when I feel it.
Oh, yeah.
I know it when I feel it, because this morning I was angry, Victor, because we were talking, Will and I, about the arrest of a 16-year-old young man. His mother is one of my former students. I taught her when she was in search of her degree to teach. She's now a gainfully employed credential teacher. She's a fantastic educator, and her son had a run-in with the police last night, and she called my phone after 11 o'clock.
Wow.
And I got up and I went to the scene, to help her and assist her. And now this child is, and I say child because he's 16 years old.
I was listening to you this morning.
He's been charged. He's been charged with 3 charges. 2 of them are very serious. 2 are felony counts, and 1 is a misdemeanor count. And Will and I were discussing it. It's all surrounding this alleged flashing of a weapon that they never found. And it makes me angry because it's, to me, a symptom of a much larger issue with policing in this country. In particular in certain parishes in the state of Louisiana, whereby I believe that some of these police officers think and feel that a badge and a gun entitles them to circumvent your constitutional rights.
Yeah.
Because I just don't understand how, if you're asking me, Will, Dr. White, would you like to have a conversation with me?
Right.
And I said, no,
not today.
I don't want to have a conversation with you. I don't know how that becomes an issue. If I have constitutional rights that govern me as an individual, and a police officer is asking me to talk to me, and I'm 16 years old, and my mother says, no, I would rather you not talk to him because he does not have legal counsel. She's not an attorney. We don't want to talk and be used incriminate him in some sort of way that he's not even aware of. He's a child.
Right.
And so I don't understand how we go from that to obstruction of justice, and I'm going to give you the definition that I think they're using, right? Because there's a whole bunch of statutes. According to the Louisiana Revised Statute 14130.1, because you know I'm a researcher, how will, and I'm gonna go find the letter E says cause the hindrance, delay, or prevention of the communication to a peace officer, as defined in Revised Statute 1430, of information related to an arrest or potential arrest, or related to the commission of a possible commission of a crime or parole or probation violation. This is what I have an issue with when it comes to legalities, right?
Okay.
Because a lot of this stuff is so broad and so blanketed. They're trying to cover every base that they think they can cover. And to me, if we're doing right by our constituents in terms of our duty to serve and protect, what that child was accused of, in my opinion, doesn't rise to the level of anything he's been charged with. You asked him if he wanted to talk. That's a question, right?
That's a question.
So that implies that I have a choice, right?
Yeah.
If constitutionally I have a choice, how do I then enforce my constitutional right, but now I'm facing an obstruction of justice charge?
You know, in looking at it from a humanistic standpoint, one human being to another human being, and sometimes individuals, as I mentioned to the pastor's wife, power tends to cause individuals to think that they can do more than what they actually legally can actually do. And in some individuals who have power, such as police officers, they're given certain powers, they need to have the moralistic fiber to go along with that power. Because if they don't, it will be abused. And reason, because we're human, you know. And just one reason why I have advocated often that police officers, based on what they do, need to have a psychological examination at least twice a year, just to make sure that they're still in the mode of maintaining the constitutional rights of the people that they cover. Because when you get into a situation where your anxiety is provoked often, a police officer anxiety is provoked often, it can actually change that individual's mindset. So this individual sounds like, from what I've heard, and I'm going strictly on what I've heard, that they're having the power to demand something and they couldn't get it.
Oh, that's
so
what you heard.
Frustration set in.
Mm-hmm.
And when frustration set in, this individual that had power and control decided to use that power and control because they could not deal with the uncomfortable emotion, not getting what they wanted, which is frustration and disappointment. And they tend to use the power that they had. And it's not an unusual situation. Many individuals who have the ability to have power over others can manipulate that power based upon their own emotional state. Again, why? Because we're human.
And again, I shared this with Will. Every part of the communication that I had with these officers, it was several of them. There were 4 of them on the scene. One was a lieutenant, and the other 3 were officers. 2 of them being black, 1 female, 1 male, and the other gentleman, I would just label him as other because I do not know his race or ethnicity. Mm-hmm. He looks very ambiguous to me, but I can tell you he is not white and he is not black. But he was on the scene as well. And I said that to the mother. I said, this feels like he's doing this because he's angry that he didn't get his way, which was to be able to communicate with your son. But you have a right to not have them. I've seen too many issues
we have a constitutional right.
Absolutely, whereby people think they're doing the right thing and they start to talk to police officers and they're found that they've put themselves in a worse situation than if you asserted your right to not speak to them because you asked. You know, I say now, if he's under arrest, that's different. Let them just do their job, but you don't have to talk to them.
Even if he's under arrest constitutionally,
and I told her that
you do not have the right
you don't have to
say
them.
anything.
And
you
I
have the right to remain quiet.
I think it frustrated him, and I think it was a lot of ego. And again, I shared this with Will. Every part of the conversation I had with all 4 of those officers is documented by body camera, and it's there by the camera, so I can't touch it or alter it. I was my full self on there. I asked the questions that I needed to ask. I identified who I was, and I felt like at certain points it was about trying to agitate a situation or antagonize a response out of me, right? But you got to wake up a little bit earlier in the morning. I've grown. Well, I'm not that girl.
Well, good, because one of the things that we have to utilize in these situations is intelligence, our smarts. Not let your emotion dictate your behavior. Emotion does a very poor job in dictating behavior.
And I'm learning, I'm growing with that part because some things are so frustrating that emotionally it triggers a response.
Yeah.
But I knew what they were trying to do. And so I tell people all the time, I stopped swinging my fist and I started using my brain because I was a fighter. Now I just fight differently.
Yeah.
But people have to understand that everybody's purpose in this life is self-preservation, and it's to protect those we love and care about, right? And though I do not, that child does not belong to me. His mother is very important to me. And so she thought enough to call me in that moment, and I'm going to think enough of her to respond. And I went there because there's a 16-year-old kid who needed assistance. Yeah. And I would hate to think what could have happened if I didn't pick up the phone, right? Yeah. And so to your point, I knew you were trying to jump in.
Yeah, so I Dr. Sims, I'd like to hear your weigh in on power before Dr. Wyatt showed up. Because this is a person, a professional that you've known, that you've helped develop. Didn't necessarily know her kid, but you knew her.
I know her kid. It's not my kid.
Okay. And it was important enough to you to get up and get going. So in that power dynamic with the police there, and this young lady there, the mother of the child, to me, she was exhibiting power in a different way because she had a phone number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She had a phone number. Mm-hmm. I am not wearing blue. Mm-hmm. I am deeply disturbed and I need help.
Yeah. See, one of the things that you're talking about from a technical standpoint is something called the Hawthorne theory. The Hawthorne theory is a theory behind crime cameras. Mm-hmm. People behave differently when they know they're being watched.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You arriving at that scene at the time now had a different set of eyes. Now you're being watched by an individual who has the capacity of broadcasting your behavior. You not being there would have been a potential and entirely different response that mother and her son would have gotten. You showing up, now we have to do things more appropriately now because we're being watched by a third party.
Yeah, because initially, Doc, he told me when I asked, because when I first arrived at the scene, I just told the mom, you want to get everybody's name and badge numbers who you interface with, right? And she was just too nervous. She was just rattled. I mean, so I went over and I said, after I spoke to them, he asked me who I was, and I said, well, can I have your name and badge number? He told it's in the report. I said I shouldn't have to wait for a report to get the name and the badge numbers of the officers, the same way that you're asking me who I am. And I told you immediately who I was. And when I said my name, he said, a doctor of what? I said education. And then he said, but what is your reason here? I say, because I do a lot of advocacy work. Advocacy work for what? Like, that's the energy. Like, because for me, if anybody shows up at my school, when I ran a school, you could have walked in there. And I know you work for NOLA.com. I know you're a journalist. I know you can write. I don't care what you write about because I know my house is in order.
Yeah, right.
Right? I don't have a problem inviting you into my building. Yeah. You could, whatever you need to do. Because if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do on behalf of children, why do I have to rebuff you, right? Why am I doing that? And so to me, the energy, I didn't come belligerent. I was wearing a dress and sandals, like literally, and it's just me. I didn't come with an entourage of people. So why is your response, it'll be in the report? I see your name, just give me your badge number, right? And then when I started to ask about the other folk, he named an officer whose name you would have to know the spelling to get it right. And I said, well, can you spell that for me? He said, see, there you go. Like, because I told him I was a doctor of education, he thought I should have known how to spell it. My last name is Wyatt. I don't assume anybody knows how to spell my last name. Right. Some people put an H in my last name. I'm going to spell it for you. And I always tell people it's like Hyatt with a W. And that's the easiest way. It's like Wyatt Earp, right? The easiest way. But it was that sort of arrogance and that sort of energy. And he's the lieutenant. So imagine what the officers and their energy, because they're following their leader.
That's right.
Right? So if that is the energy you're espousing and you're the commanding officer on the scene, then the other officers, now they have this energy, right? The two black officers have this energy. There was at one point, one of them had the hand on the weapon, talking to me. You know what I mean? That is a sign of intimidation, but I'm not easily moved by that. I'm not, because I understand what my rights are.
I'm sorry. You said hand on the gun?
Yes. That's intimidation. That's what it was. All of this because somebody is alleging that a child brandished a weapon. They found no weapon. James, good morning. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. You're on with Dr. Victor Sims, Dr. Ashanta White, and the one and only Will Sutton. I'm sorry. How to merge y'all names. Hey, James.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah.
I was going to say I recognize your passion, and I agree with it. The federal constitutions, the 4th and the 5th, I believe, cover all that, what you just said.
Did. Search and seizure. Yep.
Yeah. And you go 8, 9, and 10, and I guess that will cover the rest.
Yes.
So these guys overstepped themselves being RoboCops. I was not there. I'm not a lawyer, but I do pretend to be one on the radio from time to time with y'all. But I will say this. I have to begin to start telling my children, first thing, roll the windows down, cut the lights on, hands on the steering wheel. What am I being stopped for? Don't pull up talking about license and registration first. Identify yourself and tell me you're a lawful peace officer. I need to know your name and your badge number, and I'm gonna give you my information and everything you ask for after that. But what am I being stopped for? And if I'm not being stopped for a known crime, then I'm not saying nothing. You can take me. I'm not gonna fight and put my hands behind my back. I'm gonna get in that call. I'm gonna be on live. Somebody's gonna know where I am and who's got me, because I'm gonna hear everything. And I'm coming with a lawyer. I'm no longer fighting with these people in the street about the Constitution and the law, because I don't even believe that no law now. That like we living in the West. The whole country is the West. We lawless.
Yep.
Because we're being governed and ruled by a lawless society. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you, James. I appreciate you. I mean, to add to that, I think we're being ruled by a racist society. Like the racism and this power dynamic of trying to make certain that they have class relegations, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's them up here, and then everybody else kind of comes underneath that. And the sad part about it is we're finding them in every facet of our government, in every facet of our judicial systems and things of that nature. You're finding white supremacy in all of these spaces and places where how do you manage your anger when that is happening, when that's the reality that you're living under? How do I manage anger when my 16-year-old son is facing felony charges because somebody said he brandished a weapon?
Somebody. A
kid. Like, he brandished a weapon. Like, and now my son is facing charges that I have to be able to afford to get him out of, right? Because if not, we're dependent on that same system to do right by my son.
Yeah. It is a travesty of justice for such a situation to take place. Unfortunately, it is the reality that we have to deal with. And that is why managing your emotional level about this situation is so important. Because when we use emotions to make decisions, no matter what the actual situation was, there's a good chance we're going to miss some things. Or we may even accidentally add to the other side's point of view.
Yeah.
See, the idea is to slow down. When you feel yourself having a powerful set of emotion, slow down, process the situation. If that means you need to get away from it for a minute or two, then do so before you open your mouth and say something. There's a reason why we have a constitutional amendment to not incriminate yourself. Because when you start talking to police officers, everything that you say can be used against you. You're thinking you're rationalizing or you're justifying your behavior, when in actuality, you may be given the very information necessary for someone to bend it into a method that you're doing something inappropriate. So strong emotion and thinking clearly don't live together. And if you're full of emotion, you have to slow down. Take a breath, get yourself together, process what you're thinking about, then make a decision on what you're going to say, if you're going to say anything at all. Mm-hmm. And my big advice is if you don't know exactly what you want to say, then say nothing until you're able to process it fully.
Seems, Doc, that's what got him in trouble. That it seems, right?
Well,
and I'm telling you, I was there. I'm telling you my perspective. I'm telling you, I was there. When on the phone as I'm talking to the mom, you can hear him say what? As if he was blown away because he expected her to comply with the request. It was a request. She has a duty to her son, not to how do I? And even the mom whose house they went in, the lady, she was on the scene with me. She said, ma'am, I thought that, and I asked him, if I let you search my house, would you let him go? So that's the mother of the girlfriend of the little boy.
Okay.
So the mother is thinking, if I comply with them, I know there's no gun in my house. You see there's no gun, certainly you're going to let him go.
Well,
they searched the home, didn't find no gun, didn't let him go.
See, you're talking about the other side of the equation.
Yeah.
What was going on in their minds? We mentioned power is an issue that can cause an individual to feel as though they can go beyond what they're legally allowed to do because they stop thinking as well.
Yeah.
And if in the past, if this individual utilized his position, his power position, to abuse someone's rights, then it's sort of like feed the dragon that now I can continue doing this. And, if he had been called on the carpet in the past for such infractions, that would have been a less rationale for him to utilize his power in this situation. And him being the lieutenant, he's the one in charge. Yes. So he's been around a lot longer than the regular officers. So what kind of behavior has he exhibited in his career to be able to feel as though he can now violate the rights of this individual?
And I looked him up. One of the officers, the young man, the black young guy, looked him up. He's been on the force for 3 years. But if this is your lieutenant and you've only been on the force 3 years, if this is your exemplar of how you're learning how to police your own community, that is a problem. Well, because the reason you're there is to ensure that we have equitable access to policing that values our humanity. That is why you're there.
Yes.
You wear black, you wear blue, but you are black. And you need to understand why you're there.
Well, darling, yeah, I fully understand what you're saying, and I totally agree with you. Except there are other factors that play a role.
Yeah, we see it, yeah.
You see, you have the issue we talked before of groupthink.
Yeah.
And in that profession,
it's
the bond, they've got to be that close together despite their ethnicity and those loyalties. That loyalty to that blue is much more important because that's the person going to be riding with you. That's the person going to go behind you into that door.
But guess what? We're the people that you live amongst. We're the community that you're going to come to when you need something. You're going to have to come. How often do we see that? They have to come back this way when they've been wronged by the profession. They have to come back to the very community that they should have been doing right by. You have callers. The lines are lit up. You want me to let you talk to the people?
Let's talk to the people.
Good morning, Reverend Calhoun. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. You're on with Victor Sims.
Good morning. I got a couple of quick questions. This child's never been in trouble before. He now has been placed in a facility or in a situation that he's not familiar with. Victor, could you explain the trauma or the issues that this child may have because of that?
Sure.
The other piece is this never goes away. You're saying 20 years from now they can still go dig up this record and say that he was arrested. Because am I being correct in saying that he has been arrested now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that is true.
So if he's been arrested, then this arrest record follows him. They say it can be expunged and all that, but the reality of that is that will follow him the rest of his life.
Absolutely.
And again, I don't understand. It's one word against somebody else's word, and they're both children. How did they arrive that this boy was, I don't know. And after not finding anything, looked like to me all these charges should have been dropped, which they probably will be in the morning. But again, the damage that's already been done. So Vic, if you could speak to that, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Rev.
Sure. Yes, this can be a very traumatic experience for this young man, especially if he's never had any encounters with law enforcement prior, because his ability to feel as though he's in control of his life just got taken away from him. For any one of us, when we feel the need that we've lost control of our lives, it is a very frightening situation. And that can cause a traumatic event that lasts with this young man for quite some time now. It can be very, very detrimental to him in his feelings about our society as a whole. Now, depending upon what type of assistance he receives, once this situation has over with, to find out if it has caused a major difficulty in his mentality. Some individuals can address these situations and not blink. Some individuals will be traumatized for the rest of their lives. It depends upon the symptomology that this individual had, but the potential for it to be mentally disastrous, yeah, they're very great. Because he's in an environment where he has totally no control whatsoever. And for listening audience, think about it. Being in an environment where you have totally no control whatsoever of what transpires, that is one of the most frightening situations any human being can ever face.
John, good morning. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. You're on with Dr. Victor Sims.
Hey, good morning, gang. I've been, like I said, been really busy getting bits and pieces. But one of the things that stuck out when you said, I think the lieutenant or something was racially ambiguous.
No, not the lieutenant, the fourth officer. He was. I don't know his race or ethnicity, but I know he's not white and I know he's not black, but I don't know what he identifies as.
Okay, because that's why it's very important to recruit officers that are really familiar. Not that they should be exclusively from New Orleans. We do need a variety of perspectives, but we have a very unique culture here. The way we behave, the way we act, and I've often said before, you may not remember, but how you have situations where a black person, particularly a black man, is shot, then you have the community saying one thing, like the officer say, well, he was behaving erratically, his hands were flailing about, but then the community say he was talking to them. Now, sometimes the way we express ourselves, we can be very animated. And if you don't come from a culture, if you come from a very stoic culture, you don't understand hand movement and body gestures and maybe tap the chest. You know how we can be. We can signify when we're expressing ourselves. So based on your cultural relevance, one community sees it as, hey, man, he was talking to him. The other one sees it as, oh, he's out of control. His hands were flailing about. I felt for my, threatened, felt for my life or what have you. So it needs to, you need the variety, but you need people who are somewhat familiar with the culture, the better, the police our community, because if not, you don't know how this is going to affect. How old was this young man?
He's 16 years old.
Oh yeah, that's those kind of impacts at that point going forward can affect them a lot.
Yeah.
Not having the maturity to process it or what have you. Well, I hope everything works out.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys.
I appreciate you. Yeah, and the other point too, Doc, is we talk about managing anger and the callers. It put me in the mind of the man who murdered the police officer because a police officer murdered his son, and they showed that father the footage of his son being murdered. And this police officer who had nothing to do with the case that involved his son, he was doing like a traffic stop or something, like a directing traffic or something. That police officer the guy murdered that police officer. No way, shape, or form do we condone that, right?
No, not at all.
But the conversation begins with when you don't feel like there's justice or there's nothing just about a system. How do you manage that sort of anger? Because this is his child that he had to watch on footage be murdered senselessly. By the way, it shouldn't have gotten to that point. And it took me to the courtroom when he was being arraigned, and all the officers, a very intimidating thing. They lined them all up, all the police officers, and they're like staring him down as he's walking out of the court. And then he go to the elevator, and white officers get on the elevator with him. And at the very last moment, a black officer stepped into the elevator and got to the back of the elevator. As a black woman, I felt like I knew what he was thinking when he did that, because that's something I would have done. Because we don't know what's going to take place on that elevator, right? And we don't know. He's handcuffed. He's defenseless. And yes, he's been accused of a crime, but that's why there's a system to deal with that.
Yeah.
But what system deals with them when they murder our children and we watch them time after time get off? And then there's a federal push for blanket immunity for police officers to just do what they please at the expense of the public. How do you manage that sort of anger when you're watching a system that's supposed to have all of these laws and protocols and there's supposed to be a constitution, and you're watching your government circumvent that constitution? How do you manage that anger? How do you not become a Luigi? right? Somebody that's thinking, I have no other choice but to take the law into my own hand. How do you manage anger?
Well, first of all, understand if you are full of that type of emotion, you're not thinking.
At all.
And if you're not thinking and you decide to take an action, are you considering the potential consequences of your action? Most people are not. So, as I mentioned earlier, if you're full of that emotion, don't make a decision. Because 99% of the time, your decision is going to increase the situation you're dealing with, going to make it worse for you.
Can you hold that thought right there?
Sure.
It will make it worse for you. And we have to go to break, but when we come back, we're going to merge this conversation that we're having with the conversation of the current president of the United States and a statement he made that is rooted in hatred, that we can only liken to the anger of not getting his way. The same way we're talking about this police officer not getting his way, in my opinion. That's my opinion, right? We're going to continue to talk about it. I hope you keep listening. This is WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about.
All day long.
This is your news update for WBOK from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
Today's shaping up to be another wet one as we approach the afternoon. Another chance for widespread storms. Sun could bring heavy downpours, gusty winds, and localized flooding. Highs in the low 90s, feeling like the upper 90s to low 100s. Storm chances in 90s. Stick around for the rest of the week. From the WDSU First Warning Weather Center, I'm Raven Richard.
Hey, everybody, it's Graylin Bryant Banks.
And Kimber White Dupree.
From the front porch.
Some combos are too good to miss. Now you can pull up a chair to the front porch anytime.
Just search WBOK Media and subscribe to the Front Porch Podcast.
Download, share, and hit us with a 5-star rating because New Orleans culture deserves to be heard loud and clear.
Welcome to Chemical of the Month by the community scientists at Rise St. James. This month, we spotlight phthalates, chemicals added to plastics, especially PVC, to make them more flexible and durable. But there's more. Research shows phthalates may disrupt hormones, affect reproductive health, and contribute to environmental pollution impacting our communities. Join us as we explore how these additives shape our everyday lives and the world around us. For more details, visit risestjames.org. Empower your knowledge with Rise.
The doctor's office that accidentally mixed up your files has your social security number. The power company that mistakenly cut your service has your payment info. And the hotel that lost your reservation has your passport number. You need LifeLock because your personal info is in endless places that can expose you to identity thieves. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Some things can steal your sunshine. Ugh, I just got my hair done.
Sorry, the cooler's broken. Anyone see my flip-flops? Anyone?
But COVID-19 can steal a lot more.
I just took a COVID test. Ugh.
Prescription medications for COVID exist. If you test positive this summer, ask your doctor if they're right for you. Visit PfizerForAll.com/COVID-19 to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Hey everybody, it's Kimber White Dupree.
And it's Graylin Bryant Banks from the front porch. We're coming up next.
Good morning, wake up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
If you're just joining us, we're in conversation with Dr. Victor Sims talking about managing anger. And, you know, at the bottom of this hour, we always try to talk about national news and what's happening. And nationally, the current president of the United States was doing a rally.
Oh, let's talk about anger.
And if you missed it, we're getting ready to play it for you right now. And we want the doc's perspective, a cold perspective to what he's about to hear.
We're about to hear Donald J. for Jackass Trump say something that no other president has ever said.
Not one Democrat voted for us, and I think we use it
in the campaign that's coming up, the midterms, because we got to beat them. But all of the things that we've given, and they wouldn't vote only because they hate Trump. But I hate them too, you know that? So it's certainly, I really do, I hate them.
An American president saying that he hates half of the country. He hates Democrats simply because of the way they want to vote and what they believe in. He hates them.
And Doc, what's more jarring to me than what he said is the fact that they cheered it. Did you hear the cheer? That they were cheering for him saying he hates the Democrats.
Yeah. There's a lot can be said about this situation. I'm gonna try to narrow these comments because I do believe that in this my personal comment, I think that the individual who's running the White House definitely is an ill individual. His ability to focus purely on his own wishes, wants, and desires is humongous. And no matter what those wishes, wants, desires are, no matter how disastrous they may be, if you don't go along with the program, he comes after you in some way, shape, or form. And it doesn't matter who it is. I remember in his first term, he got into a Twitter battle with a union boss in Detroit because the union boss made a statement that disagreed with it. Here's the president of the United States getting into a Twitter war with a union boss in Detroit. Don't you think he got something better to do than to do that?
Like run the country?
So this individual, when he gets disappointed, he converts it into anger. It's disappointment. Because the Democrats refused to go along with this bill because of political harassment, he turned it to a personal assault because he didn't get what he wanted.
Which mirrors to your comment that you made before the break when you were talking about thinking before you act in the moment when you feel. Because it is my I don't think he thinks.
He doesn't.
He's super irrational.
Now, also, look at where the environment he's in. In studying this man over the many years, why are you holding rallies? Political rallies. He gets energy from that. The crowd feeds him, which makes him feel as though his thoughts and ideas are accurate because you get a lot of backup. If you ever notice a lot of time when he makes
that group think you talking about,
it's that group think, and he's the one that's throwing it out. And when they give him back the positive accolades that he wants, it just feeds him to even say more. Oh, you thought this was something? Wait till later on. As he begins to feel more and more powerful, that inability to think clearly and to focus on moral values, ethics, and what's righteous, it slips away even more so. So his comment was based upon the fact that he didn't get something he wanted. There's a group of people called Democrats who defied him, didn't go against him. You can't defy this man. And to sort of contrast, Barack Obama put people in his cabinet he knew disagreed with him because to get a different point of view, Donald Trump could not stand such a situation. People who disagree with him. He can't handle that. He doesn't have the intellectual fortitude to be able to address an opposite opinion.
So, Dr. Sims, how do we deal with a president who doesn't seem to know how to process thinking in a mature adult way, and who is so often so angry and just speaks off the cuff with anger?
Yeah.
How do we process that?
By recognizing who we're dealing with. First, we have to go inside our own selves. Who are we? What are we about? What are we wanting? As American citizens, as Black American citizens, as white American citizens, as Hispanic American citizens, what do you want as an American citizen? What type of leadership do you want? What type of role modeling are you looking for in your leadership? And once you identify that, this man would not fit the bill. But for some people, he does. So that's a whole nother conversation that we can have. So how do we deal with it? We have to speak up. We have to get involved in the political process, in the political system. And in our free press has been victimized by this individual because if you ask him a question that challenges his authority. You know, he would, you're just a nasty person.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
he would actually use this. And the one phrase that makes me cringe is the fake news. Fake news is only about when he doesn't get what he wants out of the news media. That's what he gets. See, the news media, this station, that's why I love this station, that's why I'm going to always be here, will challenge the powers that be. We have to challenge the powers that be because human beings are given. You know, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. The free press, which the founders nation recognized the need for the free press to always challenge a human being who has power. Because without that, that individual can run amok and think that whatever they do is okay. This is why we don't have a king, because this is what kings did. And now if you lucked up and got one that had morals and values, the ethics, you were cool. But if you got one like what we got right now, you see what comes out of that. People being abused, chaos, constantly reign. Only those individuals who support him get any kind of justice. If you have the audacity to challenge him appropriately, you get vilified. So we have to rise up. We have to get more involved in the process. We have to let our voices know. We need to know every phone of every elected official in Washington, D.C. and make them phone calls, their emails on a regular basis to let them know what we're thinking. I always hear the American people. Well, I don't know. None of them ever talk to me. So when they keep talking to American people, who are you talking about?
Now you sound like me with these
I
surveys,
got you.
huh?
I got
These
you.
surveys,
Yeah,
huh?
right.
You know, when they talk about something, they've surveyed New Orleans and they want. And who you talking to? Because the people I know don't have that same experience as was documented on the paper. But I do know that Will also wanted to touch on the founder of Essence Ventures.
Yeah.
You know, we had Essence Fest this past July 4th weekend, and a lot of folk were disappointed in a lot of what they expected from Essence because they are habitual Essence attendees, and they're comparing previous years with what they've been seeing in the last couple years with Essence. And we had the founder, Mr. Rich Dennis, on yesterday, and he was speaking specific to a lot of the pushback as it relates to the sponsorship of Target.
Yeah.
We found out that Target and Essence are in a multi-level deal that's not just so easy to step away from. We found out that they didn't get some of the state revenue, as much of the state revenue that they have gotten in previous years. I since found out, Will, that it is being alleged that Essence was late in filling out certain documentation to get access to certain monies. I would like, that to be cleared up. This is one of the things that have been said. We've had some vendors, some local vendors as well, pull out of Essence because of their the miscommunication, what they felt like was a slight to the small Black businesses, more in favor of the social media influencers and things of that nature. And so there was a lot of pushback. What I did like about the conversation with Mr. Dennis is that he availed himself to it. It is my understanding that he doesn't do many interviews, but he came here and he wanted to have that conversation here. And I'm hoping it's the starting point of future conversations because a lot of our listening audience wanted to engage with him. Our phone lines were not open for that because he didn't have much time. So the time that he did have, his team wanted him to address
just to express himself,
the issues that folk were having. And so we made a call out to say that if you had any feedback for the Essence team or whatever your concerns were, to put them in the chat. He's promised that he wants to continue the conversation. And so maybe him or somebody that represents the Essence Ventures will come again to address those questions and those concerns, because again, this is a predominantly Black city, a culturally rich Black city. Essence is a Black institution. Mr. Dennis is a Black leader of that institution, and I think we all owe each other the benefit of conversation and dialogue, so that we can work through that.
Yes.
Because there is a lot of angst that some on some levels rose to anger because people spent a lot of money for an experience that they do not believe that Essence delivered on.
Yeah.
And what I do like and what I do want us to start doing more for each other is extending grace, because sometimes it's about having the access to the information that could change the way you think.
Okay.
Because talking to him made me think about the way I was thinking about the boycott, and things of that nature. I didn't change my stance on it. I still feel like I believe that we have to have a collective voice, but our collective voice has to have the education attached to it, so that we can have one vested interest in what the outcome is for us. As he said, to what end, right?
Yeah.
To what end are we doing this? And so, I wanted to thank you for being here. And I want to give Will an opportunity. We got a couple of minutes, Will, because I know you wanted to touch on the Essence conversation.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to not talk about that for you.
Yeah. So we had a very rich conversation with Mr. Dennis yesterday, and we know a number of people wanted to chime in. I look at this as an ongoing conversation. Mr. Dennis may not be here today or this week, but there's no reason we can't talk about what people are talking about.
And he didn't even call in.
And he or others can call in. But we do want to hear from you what your experiences are over the years, in recent years, this past weekend. What I am seeing and what I am feeling is Essence is committed to the culture. I get it. New Orleans is committed to its culture. And perhaps we have a clash of our cultures. We who live here and are of this place, when we say culture, that means something. And we know what that means. Someone who isn't from here, and it doesn't have to be Mr. Dennis. You can come here from Atlanta, from Chicago, from LA, be deeply rooted in your community, and you say culture, and it's not the same thing that we know and we feel. So as Essence continues to evolve and grow, which is what I hope to see, I guess it's like adding members to the family. And so they might be babies at one point, but they grow and they develop their own personalities. And you pour into them, but they have some different ideas about how to do things. And we want to still love them. But how do we continue as a family?
So that's a good question, because Black Source Media wrote an article as it relates to what is happening with Essence. And the title of that article is Essence Losing Its Cultural Edge? Corporate Takeover and DI Rollbacks Stir Backlash. And one of the subtitles says, where do we go from here? Essence Fest still matters. The culture still shows up. The spirit is alive in every laugh, song, and connection made in the Dome. But to remain a trusted space, Essence must evolve with the people, not just the sponsors. It must ask hard questions, set stronger boundaries, and remember what made it magical in the first place: authenticity, community, and accountability. Because if the Black community begins to feel like Essence is no longer about us, it won't matter how many celebrities hit the stage, the vibe will be gone, and the trust may not come back. What do you think? Is Essence still ours, or are we watching something sacred get repackaged for someone else?
Mm-hmm.
And it also says, sound off in the comments. The culture is listening.
Yeah. Having expectations of what you're going to receive based on what you have received creates again, an expectation.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, other individuals may have their own thoughts and ideas about what they're going to produce based upon their interests. Mm-hmm. And when these two things clash, you're going to have reality. And reality is not necessarily what I want or what the other person wants. But what you're doing right now is the way to address it, to bring it out.
Well, you heard that from...
to put a spotlight on it,
yeah.
To shine it so that we can see what the reality is. Mm-hmm. Thus, we can have a conversation to make the adjustment to make the expectation a reality for next time.
Well, you heard that from the one and only Dr. Victor Sims. It's been quite the conversation, and you got to promise to come back. I promise you. Every time I engage with you, I feel like I need another hour. I need some more time. But we want to thank Pastor Dr. Deborah B. Morton for joining us this morning, talking about the Kingdom Achievement Awards Gala in celebration of Bishop Paul S. Morton's 75th birthday. And you've heard the one and only Victor Sims talk to us about managing anger. I don't know if I'm any better at managing it, but I know I'm better than I was, and that's a plus. And he has promised to come back, and we're going to continue to talk about and elevate and amplify the conversations that folk want to have right here on our station. And please continue to keep your eyes and ears open for what is going on with this 16-year-old young man that I'm going to continue to bring you updates about as I find them. Thank you for engaging in the chat. Thank you for your phone calls. Thank you for listening. Y'all stay tuned. Up next for The Front Porch with Greater Than Kimba. As far as the Good Morning Show, Dr. Ashanta White, my super producer, who's missing in action because he was singing his little heart out. Larry Sanders, and my co-host Will Sutton, and my guest this morning, the Victor Sims, and my GM who's holding his hands open like, what about me? Mr. Justin, behind the glass, holding it all together. This is WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about
all day long.